The Schechter Institute is holding the second annual conference on the Jews of Israel and the Jews of North America. And here with special guests is joining us on this panel are Eitan Cooper from the Schechter Institute and Professor Adam Ferziger of the Hirsch Chair of the Department of Jewish History and Contemporary Jewry at Bar Ilan University, as well as the Director of the Center for the Study of Judaism in Israel and North America. Welcome to both of you, and both of you obviously have a lot of expertise on all of these topics, and talk about kind of how this conference came about and what's going to be new and different this year from last year's.
Yeah, at Schechter a couple of years ago, we started to feel very much the drift between the Schechter Institute's roots are at the Jewish Theological Seminary, which is the co-sponsor of this conference. And we started to feel the drift of American Jews and Israeli Jews, that we were moving away from each other, that we were having a much more difficult time understanding each other, that our Judaisms were different, that our cultures were different, and that somehow and that issues were arising. I mean, the best known one here is the Western Wall, but that issues were coming up over and over again that divided us. The conservative and reform movements JTS represents the conservative movement, and Schechter comes out of the conservative movement, which are still small minorities here and feel very much pushed aside. Mm-hmm. In the United States, we're talking about majorities, large numbers of Jews who feel alienated from Israel and have a sense that that Israel's moving away from them and that they don't feel comfortable in Israeli society or in a dialogue with Israelis. And we felt we needed to do something.
Right.
And not on a political level, but on an educational, academic, and interpersonal level, to begin more with the understanding of Israelis. Who are American Jews?
Yeah.
Who are they?
Listen, I think we can all attest to this,
it.
because I'm an American also who came to Israel for similar reasons, and we're saying we're moving apart, and the American Jews are feeling a little bit disenfranchised from Israel. But how much of it? I mean, is it okay to say that as opposed to the fact that America is just very far away, and as an American, it's hard physically to imagine being here, and hence kind of geography has something to do with it, would you say? Or actually, more philosophical?
Actually, I think it's neither. I think geographically, the world's become very flat. Communications, internet, travel, all those things actually facilitate a lot of interaction. In many ways, ironically, that's made for the tensions to be stronger because people know what's going on a regular basis. Once upon a time, you just got the big, beautiful news about Israel and the commercials, or you went on a trip once every couple of years, possibly. Today, the interaction is constant, and therefore, issues which might have been swept aside become very powerful and explosive and cause a lot of tensions. Yeah.
Obviously in the States, we have secular, we have people that are intermarried, but it's like at the core of it is, what would you call it? The culture, the connection, not the politics, not the religion, but the mortar of being Jewish.
Actually, I think there are a number of things, and it's good to be thinking about that. But actually, a lot of the discussion until now has focused on commonality. And my sense is that whereas in many, many other issues, we've moved a long way since 48 or 67, thinking about how Israel has developed, how Israel has its own unique identity collectively as a state, et cetera. And similarly, in America, we haven't really come to terms with the fact that Judaism, as it's developed over 70 years of sovereignty in the state of Israel, is a very different animal. It's a very different thing than American Judaism. There's certainly connections, commonalities, but actually we really have to be starting to think about differences. And it doesn't mean political debates, it doesn't mean necessarily hostility or tensions, but an acknowledgement of the beauty. The term that we use in the center that you mentioned, that we've started in Bar Ilan, the Center for the Study of Judaism in Israel and North America, is Israel, or Jerusalem, and Babylon. The ancient model of a paradigm where you have two centers of Jewish life that are culturally, religiously, intellectually, in terms of the numbers, vibrant, have creative forces, power, etc., and an acknowledgement that they're different, there are overlaps, they need each other. It's not that they can operate completely independent of each other, but nonetheless, They are not the same.
I think that if we watch what's happened over the last 70 years and we start to think about it, American Jewry in 1948 was a first-generation community. It was Yiddish speaking. There were strong ethnic ties. There were strong ethnic ties and familial ties between American Jews and Israelis and the new state of Israel. It was right after the Shoah. And the experience of the Shoah and the common tragedy that Jewish families, both here in Israel and in the United States, suffered. And I think that that was one generation. And as time has gone on, the Jewish family has changed. Jews have become Americanized. They're very much inside the society and very much insiders in so many ways. And so I think that as that has happened, there's been a natural growing apart that we need to correct. And it is cultural. It is political today in the toxic political environment in the United States. I think our politics have just added to the, I think American Jews are still 75% Democratic, and they're still pretty liberal. Israeli society is a pretty conservative society, and our politics tends to be drifting to the right. So these are things that we all have to address, and we have to address by speaking with each other and not at each other, not to each other. That's what we want to bring about.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We're out of time, but really best of luck, and it's really remarkably interesting. We're going to take a short break. Please don't go anywhere. We have much more coming up for you on Holy Land Uncovered.